If you've been in the workforce over 20 years, at some point you probably wondered, how much longer do I have to work till I retire? And the older you are, probably the more you think about it. Whether you like your job, don't like your job, that's not what I'm talking about here. At some point, you know you're going to have to retire completely, or at the very least, to cut back on the hours you put in. And that could seriously reduce your income. Today, we're going to talk about the 3 critical steps that you need to take before you retire.
Welcome to the Ask Brad Show. Be prepared to hear ideas, concepts, and strategies that may challenge the way you were taught to think about saving and investing for retirement. It's time to roll up our sleeves and get to it. And now, the host of the Ask Brad Show, here's Brad Williams.
All right. In my intro, I talked about the 3 critical steps you need to take before you retire. And one critical mistake to avoid. That's one thing I didn't add. Let me start with this revelation, which those in retirement already know. Retirement is not a destination. It's merely a transition. You're retiring from a job, not from life. So for most of us, you'll retire and life goes on for many years. In fact, more and more, I'm seeing my clients hit into the 90s. And some even may even be close to celebrating a 100th birthday out there. So if you're going to transition into that life with no set paycheck from your job, there's a few important factors to consider and some critical mistakes to avoid. Now, look at some of the transitions in life. You know, when you look back, you may have changed jobs in the past, went from one job to another. What was different? Well, maybe the route from work. Maybe the colleagues that you worked with are no longer there, pays different. Maybe it's better, maybe it's worth. The culture, you know, that's a big thing, changing the cultures from jobs, attitudes, expectations. They're all different. Well, you know what? Retirement is the same way. But knowing how you want to initially spend your time, what you're going to do with that, if you're going to be involved, let's say with your spouse, your significant other, you know, your collective time and what your goals are in terms of what you'd like to have the ideal retirement to be. Knowing that ahead of time is critical for the success of your retirement. And guess what? It's going to require multiple discussions with your spouse, with your significant other. You know, things like, are you going to stay living in the same house? Are you going to stay living in the same town? Do you want to move closer to the kids, to be near the grandkids? I've seen a lot of my clients do that. You know, they initially think, hey, Huntsville is the place I want to be. I love it here. I've transitioned in and out of here with my job. And now that I'm back here, I want to stay. And then some things happen in the family. Grandkids come along and maybe one of the children gets a job in another state and you miss the grandkids on Sundays. And so you decide, you know what? Instead of moving into that retirement community here in Huntsville, why don't we go be near the grandkids and the kids? And that happens quite often. In fact, a lot of clients I pick up are people who are coming in town for that very reason. So, you know, let's think about, what if you want to, say, be golfing 4 or 5 days a week? Hey, you know what? Golfing, like so many other things, costs money. Sometimes a lot of money, depending on where you like to play. How about travel? You may want to go to Europe, Asia. Shoot, I've had a lot of clients take Alaska cruises. That seems to be one of the favorite trips. Visiting kids all over the country. In fact, I think one of the more satisfying parts of my career I've ever had is when I had a client who had been through the downturn in 2000 and was scared. And then when I sat down and compiled her plan and showed her that she had plenty of cash if she would use it properly and she could start visiting those grandkids out west, it was like a light came on and wow, I'm better off than I thought. What I see a lot of my clients do is volunteer, whether it's at the hospital or food bank or any number of things. Mission trips. Even my assistant goes down to Central America every year for a week to build homes in a community through their church. But you know what? They pay for their own expenses there, and that's going to cost money. You know, just like a cruise, just like any other vacation. So the first critical step you need to take before you retire is figure out how much monthly income you're going to need to be able to afford the lifestyle that you want and allow you to be able to do what you want to do with your time. I've often said that the goal for retirement should be to be able to do things based on your wants and not just your needs. That to me is financial success. It's not how much money you have, but it's being able to do the things based on your wants and not your needs. And again, if you want that, you're going to have to figure out how to pay for it. You know, I meet people like y'all out here on a daily basis. And I'll be frank, as great as this society and this country is and the opportunities in this country, only a handful out of every 100 have a firm grasp of their monthly expenses before they retire. Because when you retire, it's without a paycheck now, so you better get it correct. And the sooner you start planning for this, the better. In fact, what I tell a lot of people in my talks and on radio interviews that I have on a regular basis is they need to start thinking about retirement about 10 years beforehand and start changing their portfolio, start looking at income sources, starting to do the groundwork prior about 10 years, really no more than 5 before they retire. Now, one of the things I've done to help people with that is I've created an income and expense questionnaire. And in that questionnaire, it'll give you the things you need to fill out to be able to determine where you are in that process. It's really a helpful tool for everybody. So if that's something that you would like, give us a call, 844-343-6048. That's 844-343-6048. We'll get that out to you however you desire, email or mail it to you. I think you'll find it very helpful. No cost, no obligation. Now, the reason that this income and expense tool is so important is it makes you sit down and write down what's coming in today and what's going out. And oftentimes, when I sit down with people who filled this out, who've come in to see me, you know, we'll look at their expenses and they're showing expenses and income and they're showing $14,000 a month in income and $10,600 a month, for example, in expenses. And so then I ask, okay, well, that's great. I mean, you're in a great situation. What's happening to the other $3,400 a month? Is it going right into savings? Because that's quite a bit a year you can be putting back. And, you know, oftentimes I get a what response? What do you mean? $3,600 a month extra? And then I look at their retirement savings. And I go, look, you're supposed to be saving anywhere between $40,000 and $48,000 a year based on what you're showing me. The next question they ask is, what do you mean? Because they really don't know where it's going. So that difference between what they're showing me in income and expenses, turns out there's really no savings. Everything gets spent. Starbucks, dinners out, you know, things like that. And let's just call it the slack. We'll say there's slack in there. One thing they may not be doing is counting, say, trips to Europe every year or helicopter skiing if they're inclined to that or whatever that is that they're spending money on. I even have one client that they love eco cruises, you know, where they go to exotic, expensive places. And that's great. You know, that's great. You know, I have a friend from many years ago. He's retired 3 times and he has the skills, which are very specialized, which kind of allow him to go in and out of retirement as he sees fit because what he has to offer is very valuable. But, you know, with a lot of people, once they retire, that's it. They may not be able to get back in. And in fact, especially in a town like Huntsville, where some of the skills are very specialized, or maybe they got a security clearance if they're in the government or related to government work, and they go too long, you know, they lose that edge and they're really not that marketable anymore. So basically, you know, I mentioned the 3 steps. And the first one is figure out your ideal retirement. How do you spend your days, weeks, months? What are you going to do? And project out approximately how much you think that's going to cost you. It really doesn't matter whether you do it monthly or annually. A lot of people find that doing it monthly may be a little easier and you don't end up with gaps. And you want to start with things like guaranteed income sources, pension, Social Security, things like that. Maybe you've got some business interest or rental income. And maybe if you're lucky, you've got one of those future inheritances that's waiting on you. But whatever it is, you just need to calculate your guaranteed source of income and then the difference between that and your expenses. Now, for a lot of people, there's no gap. They say, well, look, I got all this savings, but I got plenty of income. But others, the gap's significant. And so that's where the proper planning, proper asset allocation really comes into play, because you're going to be depending on that nest egg to fund your retirement. So that's what's going to be supplementing your Social Security, your pensions, the money you're pulling from your savings and investment, because in reality, you've given up your paycheck. And what I do for clients is just a math equation. We sit down, add some factors to it, inflation, things like that, and figure out what's coming in, what's going out, and significant life experiences and things that are expected to happen at some time in the future. And then that determines whether we have enough money to pay for it. So that's the key. The key is making sure that you got more money left over at the end of the month or the year, however you want it. And again, I'd like to offer a tool that I find is helpful, which is the income and expense questionnaire. And this is something we'll be happy to send out to you. Call 844-343-6048. That's 844-343-6048. And could be something, if you're a do-it-yourselfer, might help you. If you're coming in to see me and would like take advantage of free consultation we give to all of our listeners, it'd be a great first start to the conversation in that hour that I give out free. I had a client come in to see me, and you would think, looking at their assets, say at about $1.25 million in savings, you would think $1.25 million, that's pretty good. When we looked at what they were getting from Social Security and what they were expecting to spend, the problem is their spending was projected to be $20,000 a month, and their fixed income sources was about $10,000 a month. So they're going to have to come up with another $10,000 every month to meet those expenses. That's $120,000 a year. Well, think about it, folks. $120,000 out of a $1.25 million gets you 10 years. Do you think that retirement equation works out?
Sorry, Charlie.
That's right. A little over 10 years of retirement, they're broke. So the key then is knowing what is expected ahead of time. Because if they did that, they might realize, well, maybe we need to work a little longer. Maybe we need to save more in the interim. So those are the key things that are very important.
At Brad Williams Financial Services, we believe in innovative thinking, and we're not afraid to challenge conventional methods in our approach to managing, investing, and preserving wealth. To learn more about Brad Williams Financial Services or to set up a complimentary review,
call 844-343-6048. That's 844-343-6048. Taxes, taxes, taxes. It's not about how much you make. It's about how much you keep, especially in retirement, especially with a new tax law. Going forward, what will this mean for you and your taxes? Brad Williams has created a tax cheat sheet. It's a 2-page reference guide on the new tax bill and how it may affect you. For your free tax cheat sheet, give Brad a call at 844-343-6048. That's 844-343-6048. Or visit AskBradShow.com. That's AskBradShow.com. Thanks for listening to our show today. In retirement, you only get one chance to get it right. And we know that proper information leads to informed decisions. And that's why we hold free informational workshops in our area every month. Topics like Social Security, RMDs, the latest retirement tax strategies, IRAs, estate planning, and so much more. For dates and times of the next free workshop in your area, just pick up the phone. Give us a call today. Call 844-343-6048. That's 844-343-6048.
So as we're getting back into income, one of the things that's resounding here is knowing what you're going to need for retirement and where it's going to come from. I kind of call myself my client's GPS because, most people don't realize an airplane's off course most of the time, and that GPS is bringing it back onto the right compass heading, making simple, subtle corrections instead of the big ones. I'm kind of passionate. My clients would tell you that. And what is key is knowing in advance what's coming. So I would say probably 85% of the people out there suffer from financial anxiety. And what I try to help my clients do is reduce that financial stress, that financial anxiety down into simple steps. Create more income, putting that into an actual number, doing some simple cash flow analysis for early retirement, later retirement, deal with the effects of rising costs due to inflation. And then a big cost, which I've done on many shows, is healthcare costs.
Calling Dr. Howard, Dr. Klein, Dr. Howard.
So, that's key is having a plan in advance. I don't know anybody who decides to go on vacation, who just climbs in the car, points their car north and heads to the mountains in Tennessee and expects to get there. So what's key is I sit down, do a full review, show people some smart strategies. And some of those smart strategies are truly smart. Strategic movement around retirement taxation. If you'd like to find out more about that, give me a call. 844-343-6048. That's 844-343-6048. And I'll tell you what I mean by strategic movement around retirement taxation. As I mentioned about a GPS, I use a financial tool that takes into account all these things: Social Security planning, timing, healthcare cost planning, pensions, expenses, expected return on your investments, sequence of return risks. That's a subject for another entire show. So as I mentioned before, step one of the 3 steps was knowing exactly what an ideal retirement is going to cost you. Step 2, determining what resources you're going to need to pay for these. If you've got guaranteed sources such as Social Security and things like that, great. One thing about Social Security, it's kind of tricky. That's why I use a special timing report that really shows all the options, because you have Medicare coming out of that. There are so many people that leave so much of their own money on the table by not maximizing those Social Security decisions. Inflation's going to play a role, because when you look at consumer price index, senior consumer price index, healthcare costs, all these things add up. And what is $1 today won't be $1 in the future. We all know that. So this is not an easy part. This is really sitting down. And this is why doing it yourself is so tough, because you can sit down and read all the books. For example, anybody who's been in my office sees a fairly decent library. It's not even close to the number of books that I've read in my career, but they can go through all those books. I can even show them a stack they can read if they want to do it themselves, or they can search around and find somebody they feel some trust with and then use them to be that GPS. But regardless, you got to remember, a comfortable retirement is dictated by your income and not your assets. And that's why as you retire and as you transition retirement, total return is income plus growth. And the key to a successful retirement is invest for the I and not the G. Invest for the income and not the growth once you get in retirement. So you hear all this, well, if you put aside $1 million, then you take out a certain percentage, then you have a reasonable chance of not outliving your money. Yeah, it's true, but are you aware that's been reduced? That Morningstar just reduced that to just under 3%, like 2.88%, I believe is the number they came up with. And it used to be 5 at one time, then it was 4. So just a random mathematical calculation doesn't cut it. Our market's so volatile for many reasons now that using the old tools may not get you the results you're looking for. I've covered many things, calculating what your expenses are going to be, then calculating where your income's coming from. And what I do for my clients is really take those retirement dreams and help them turn them into reality based on some solid numbers, some solid work, a process they can identify with, because it's not just picking the right investments. It's about working with an advisor who has a process that addresses the needs of retirees, not just an order taker who's always looking for the greatest return somewhere, because we all know how the markets are. So it's all about a GPS income strategy. And that's one of the things that I've been talking about. So think about this. When we transition into retirement, most people spend more time every year planning their vacation than they do their retirement. So that's why you got to be asking yourself questions. What are you going to be spending your time and money on? Where that money is going to come from? How long your nest egg is going to last? And a big question. You're going to live into your 90s or even 100. Those are critical steps. I mentioned steps 1 and 2, but the third step is a comfortable retirement strategy and finding out what is the best way to fill in the gaps. As we talked about expenses and then guaranteed income sources, some people don't have a gap. Congratulations. Some people do. Where's it going to come from? And there are ways to calculate that, and there are ways to fix that. One of the key things is when you look above your guaranteed sources of income, are you counting on all your retirement income to come from the stock market itself? Well, we all know what 2000 was like in 2008. So if you're trying to beat the S&P, even 85% of mutual fund managers can't do that on a consistent basis. So what's the final destination for your money? I have some clients that are very risk averse, and some feel like, hey, look, I've got my guaranteed income sources covered. I can take some risks. And the key to that is once we've sat down and calculate all that out, then you can make those kind of educated choices, those educated decisions. So just because you got the money doesn't mean you should be taking unlimited risk trying to beat the market. Because if you're trying to beat the S&P every year, you're going to fail. Unfortunately, the years you fail might be pretty serious. So when you think about it like this, you're getting near retirement. It's almost like you're in the fourth quarter. There's 10 minutes left in the game. You're 2 touchdowns ahead. Now, let me ask you a question. Do I go to the air and go for the passes, or do I grind it out on the ground, get reasonable yardage each time I carry the ball, move the ball forward, and burn the clock out? It's your decision, because you throw that touchdown, you can also throw an interception. That long pass can be a touchdown or an interception. So keep that in mind. Are you taking unnecessary risk?
At Brad Williams Financial Services, we understand the struggles that families and business owners face today. We want to help you develop, implement, and monitor a strategy that's designed to address your personal objectives and individual situation. To learn more about Brad Williams Financial Services or to set up a complimentary review,
call 844-343-6048. That's 844-343-6048.
This is Brad Williams, and I have been privileged to have been an instructor over the last 12 years or so at the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute at the University of Alabama in Huntsville. They have some great course offerings. I'm currently teaching a course that I've written and taught for many years, Changing Face of Retirement in the 21st Century. But that's not all of the courses there. You can learn languages. You can learn hobbies, travel. There are so many things that you can get out of these courses they offer at the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute. So check it out today and come keep your brain working.
For more information on the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute, call 256-824-6183. That's 256-824-6183. Or email olli.info@uah.edu. The Osher Lifelong Learning Institute. Come keep your brain working.
All right, now that we're back, Now, for some of you listening right now, I know this is a wake-up call. I know a lot of these things maybe you've thought in your mind, but really haven't verbalized to your spouse, or maybe you have talked about it, and good for you. The key is to start taking steps today and start working to put your ducks in a row, get your bases covered. Figure out what date you'd like to retire. What's the fallback date? What's the secondary date, the tertiary date? There could be things that happen in the interim, family things or health things or any number of things that cause that retirement to be delayed. A stock market crash. So keeping those things in mind. What I often tell people is when you go from the accumulation stage to the distribution stage, and that's what you're doing when you go from the earning income stage to the retirement stage, there should be what I call the preservation stage, that middle stage, whether it's 3, 5, 6 years, whatever that may be for you, where you're making the decisions, you're de-risking the portfolio, you're starting to change how you invest, you're investing more for the eye, more for income and less for growth. And so these are the questions you need to be asking yourself and asking each other. Now, would love to talk to you about that. And that's what I specialize in, is helping people in that transition to have a written plan, to look at the factors, the variables, to have addressed them, to look at their Social Security, to figure out when they're going to claim it. What is the right pension option when you retire? Where should the money come from? How should that be invested? These are the questions you need to be asking yourself. And if you're going in and you're meeting with your advisor and you're not addressing these, maybe you got the wrong advisor. So if that's the case, I would love to spend a free hour with you. 844-343-6048. Just give us a call, 844-343-6048. And we'll be happy to sit down and discuss these things, discuss philosophies, and figure out, are you on the right path? And even if I'm not the right guy for you, it's always good to get a second opinion. So I'm going to put that offer on the table.
Have you missed any of today's show? Would you like to listen to past shows? We've got you covered 24/7. Visit AskBradShow.com. That's AskBradShow.com.
Do you plan to retire anytime in the next 5 years? If so, the clock is officially ticking. But there's a lot more work to be done. And you know what? It's a lot more than you probably know. Planning, preparation you do now, what you do today, could determine your success or failure. Welcome. This is Brad Williams and the Ask Brad Show. And today, we're going to reveal 5 critical steps you must take now before you should ever think of calling it quits from your job. Now, everybody knows saving and investing retirement is how you got to get started. But what you do with the money is what matters. If you retire and you haven't covered all your bases, you're setting yourself up for a big financial fail. Let's talk about what those specific steps are and how you take them in the years leading up to retirement. Coming up on today's show, I'm going to break down a 5-point checklist that you can't afford to ignore, including things like tax-efficient strategies that could help you save thousands of dollars in taxes in your retirement, and why claiming Social Security is more complicated now than ever, and how to avoid leaving tens of thousands of dollars in benefits on the table. And these are benefits that are rightly yours. We're going to talk about successful strategies to invest for income while minimizing risk, and a lot more. So, most of your working life, you're thinking about the steps you need to take to retire. And, thinking about these, they probably weren't a pressing concern. You probably thought from time to time, when you looked at your company handout, what am I going to do with that? When you look back, retirement was like a vague, distant concept rather than something that would actually happen one day. And then suddenly you hit your late 50s, certainly in the early 60s, And you realize without really becoming aware of it, boom, it's here. And then you realize you've been paying attention to those commercials about annuities, reverse mortgages, Medicare, and you're not tossing out those AARP mailing, right into the trash because retirement looms with a terrifying urgency. In fact, I met with a client today. She's transitioning out of her job and she's actually on medical leave now, not because she's sick, but because she's burning it up. She's officially in retirement, although she's getting paid full. And she was telling me, because I've been helping her extensively since May get ready for this. She said, Brad, God, this is hard work. I didn't realize all this stuff was so complicated. Well, doing that planning in advance is real important. When you ask yourself, do you have enough savings? Is your money invested too aggressively? Maybe not invested aggressively enough. Will you need long-term care insurance? And I think that's a misnomer because it's not so much that you need insurance as that you just have a plan, however you're going to pay for it. Do you have a will? What on earth is a reverse mortgage and why would somebody want one? So you have this abrupt awakening and it's like a panic attack. It's about 5 years out. But you know what? That can be a good thing. And the reason is these years are critical because the moves you make in that transition period, which is now right before retirement, they're going to substantially improve your life in retirement. And I kind of look at it like I've done a show on the retirement mountain. It's like climbing the retirement mountain. As you're going up, you're in the accumulation stage. As you're going down, you're in the distribution stage. And the fact that there's a preservation stage, and that's at 5 years or so before retirement, where you got to take a full inventory, reassess your strategies, and see what you've got. So in that 5th year, you're looking at that. Okay. Now in the 4th year, you're going to start looking at tax saving strategies and how to manage this early in retirement. And that's where you lay the groundwork because once you've retired, it's oftentimes too late. So you want to start a tax and income planning process today because as I mentioned before, it's what you do early that matters later. So then you got 3 years to go and you want to put aside some time to contemplate what retirement will actually mean for you. What are you going to do and how are you going to pay for it? And then as we look 2 years to go, you want to look at the ways to reduce spending and really focus on how you're going to draw your income. So increasing your income, which means you probably ought to be increasing your safety. And then the final year, you review everything. You want to get a second or even a third opinion. You really only have one chance to get this right, and you're now at the threshold. So again, there are 5 critical steps to take before you fully retire. Step 1's about taxes, and they play a critical role and have a profound impact on your retirement. I mean, taxes are the biggest expense for most people in retirement. If you're in fairly good health, you'll probably find taxes are the number one thing and not necessarily healthcare, at least for many years anyway. So if you don't have a tax efficient strategy, you could be paying tens of thousands of dollars or even more. And there's a big difference between tax preparation and tax planning. When you go to your CPA or your accountant, your tax preparer, they're preparing your taxes, making sure everything, all the boxes are checked and that all your 1099s, W-2s, whatever are included. But if you really want to pay fewer taxes in retirement, that's a forward-looking tax planning strategy. It's not about how much money you saved, because contributing money to your retirement account is easy. It's when you withdraw the money, how is it taxed? That's a different ball game. A lot of people think, well, I'm retired. I'll sell some shares of my Amazon or Apple stock or my favorite mutual fund. But if you're doing that for income, you could be really building a bad plan in there because in a down market, you're going to have to sell more shares to keep that same income. So when the market comes back, you're going to have fewer shares for the future. So you got a double whammy on your losses. You not only lost it today, but you lost it from the future. So, Albert Einstein once said, doing the same thing over and over is a definition of insanity. And we look back in the last 18 years, we've had 50% losses since the beginning of the new millennium. What would a 50% loss do to you today? today. You got to answer that question for yourself. What would a 50% loss in the market do to your retirement? And then you got to do something about it. And that's getting a second opinion. So you don't want this to happen. I don't want it to happen. Retirement's a huge decision. You got to take the steps to get it right. And you only got one chance. So, when you look at things, you could be paying additional taxes, fees, and penalties. The thought that you were counting on this money to get you through retirement, it could be a fraction of what you thought it would be. Because when you hit 70 and a half and those required minimum distributions begin that are required out of your IRA, 401k, then you got to look at taxes, because if you think you hate paying taxes now, just wait until you have to withdraw from your IRA or 401k. But you can control that. RMDs, required minimum distributions, are widely misunderstood, and really a lot of people ignore them until they happen. So the key is to address that issue early and take care of the tax problems early. So as we sit here, what are the solutions? Well, one, depending on your situation, might be beneficial to have a Roth conversion strategy to systematically start converting some of those accounts to Roths or part of them. It could be that your employer allows a Roth contribution. You may want to start changing your amount that you contribute into a Roth versus a traditional. Now, you don't get the tax deduction, but what happens is you get tax-free income once you start taking distributions. So you're changing tax certainty for tax uncertainty. So when you look at things like Roth IRAs, interest from municipal bonds, withdrawals from life insurance, these are some things to look at for tax efficient strategies, because right now the IRS is licking its chops thinking about your IRA, knowing that all that money's been compounded and you're going to have to start taking out, and that's when they get their payback. So you got to keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. And what I do is I help my clients with forward-looking strategies that help them legally save thousands of dollars in their retirement. And I show people how to prepare a retirement tax savings action plan. When's the best time to withdraw from your IRA, your 401k, other retirement accounts? This Trump tax plan presents an opportunity for a lot of people. So if all this makes sense to you, give us a call, 844-343-6048. And we will give you a free consultation to talk about these 5 steps and give you that second opinion as you're transitioning into retirement. That's 844-343-6048.
At Brad Williams Financial Services, our goal is to develop enduring, long-term personal relationships with our clients, knowing that you have placed your trust in our expertise and dedication. To learn more about Brad Williams Financial Services or to set up a complimentary review,
call 844-343-6048. That's 844-343-6048.
Investing in the stock market these days is like riding a roller coaster. Leaving a place of safety, get on the coaster, hear the clickety-clack as you experience anticipation climbing to the top of the hill, followed by sheer panic as you plummet back to the earth, hoping you stay on track. You might be brave enough to repeat the process several times, going up and down, but never achieving higher highs and accomplishing nothing but anticipation followed by fear. The stock market has been doing this same ride of volatility with no real growth. Proper education, though, can help you find a better way to grow your money during these times.
Call 844-343-6048. That's 844-343-6048.
Now, today, as we come back, we're talking about people who might retire in the next 5 to 10 years. So, as I mentioned before, you're really officially in countdown mode. If you don't have your financial plan all buttoned up, you could be setting yourself up for a big failure. So the 5 critical steps now that you really need to take care of before you call it quits. again, you got to have a strategy to maximize Social Security benefits because that's one of the few guaranteed sources of income that people have right now and should be the backbone and foundation for a financial plan. You paid the money in, you're just getting your money out, but you want to make sure you get the maximum you can. So many people leave so much on the table because, they claim it too early. They forget about how that affects their spouse's benefits. And, if you want to go to my website, askbradshow.com, I've done some shows on Social Security. I've done some shows on income planning. That's not what today's about, but you can go back and listen to those. In fact, any of my shows are on my site, askbradshow.com. So when we look at all the rules that are involved in Social Security, how and when you claim, these mean money to you. I've often told people there's two systems of taxation in the United States today, and I'm quoting from a New York Supreme Court judge from the 1930s. He said, there's one system for the informed and one system for the uninformed. And you're listening to this show probably because you want to be on the informed side. Well, that's my job, is to help you be informed. So looking at tax strategies through making sure you're maximizing Social Security income and minimizing taxes is really, really key. Now, what you might want to do is take IRA withdrawals to allow you to delay Social Security. Because once you hit your full retirement age, when you see that FRA, full retirement age, you start getting an 8% deferred retirement credit. And that will last until you hit 70. Now, there is absolutely no reason to wait till after 70 to take your Social Security because you're just leaving money on the table. But it could be that taking money out of your IRA or 401k might be a good idea to allow you to defer your Social Security and get the maximum amount out of it. And again, that depends on your situation. Some people may have to take Social Security as quick as they can get it. I hope that's not the case for you, but if you can wait, just remember claiming Social Security is complicated and there's a lot of trap doors in it. So don't leave money on the table. Your best defense is to make sure you wring every nickel out of the benefits. And with our 5-point Social Security analysis, you can discover the precise time you'll get the most out of your benefits for you and your family. There's a little known trick for boosting spousal benefits, strategies to eliminate or minimize taxes on your benefits. And you might be eligible for additional benefits. We can cover that. So if you're one of the first 5 callers today at 844-343-6048, that's 844-343-6048, I'll tell you how you can get your free Social Security analysis right now. And it's free for listening to the program. No cost, no obligation. 844-343-6048. Now, when I look at past meetings and, about 9 out of 10 of the first time client meetings, and I look at where they're invested the same at 65 as they are at 40. And as our old President Bush used to say, that's just not prudent. I remember Saturday Night Live used to do a good thing on that. Dana, whatever his name was. But you have to change your strategy as you get older. You've got to reduce your risk on your portfolio, or when these big dips happen, and they will, you'll be ready. So if you're thinking about retirement anytime in the next 5 years, like I said, your clock's officially ticking. The 5 critical steps you must take now will help you plan that out. We're going to talk about updating your investments and doing more with the investments while minimizing risk. Everybody wants to talk about asset allocation and diversification. And that is very, very important because a properly diversified portfolio, one that mirrors your appetite for risk, not your advisor, not your uncle, not your brother, but your appetite for risk, can help you through market downturns. But as I look at new clients, oftentimes they're really not prepared for that. They're just crossing their fingers and hoping that they'll make it to retirement without another major downturn. They take on more risk than they know, and they've really got no plans to protect themselves. I call it defensive investing. Show me someone who lost their shirt in any of the previous market corrections, and I'll show you someone who didn't have an updated or diversified plan for managing risk. Because you really can avoid potential market downturns by having the proper risk management strategy. You know, I said earlier that Einstein said doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results is insanity. Well, here we are. We're one of the longest run-ups in stock market history. And people are a little cautious right now. But for some reason, many are still thinking, well, it's going to continue to go up. And I see that by the way I look at portfolios when people first come in to see me. So we are really way overdue for a bear market correction. And typical bear market lasts a year and a half with a average cumulative loss of 41%. And that could be trouble, especially if you're this close to retirement, because your strength in the past and why you had time to make it up is the very word time. You had time. So when you don't have time, you got to reduce your risk. And I think this past October really reminded us of this fact because there was a lot of white knuckles going on. We saw just about all, if not all, of 2018 solid gains disappear. Now, the last week we've seen, some of those corrections with the Fed signaling maybe that they're near neutral rates, but we'll see. When I ask clients, how'd they do in 2008 and 2009? Did you lose tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands? And in early 2000s, were you caught up in the tech bubble? That's twice in 9 years that Americans got creamed in their retirement accounts. So if you don't want that to happen to you, why don't we have a conversation? Just give me a call. We can have no obligation conversation, discuss your risk, and discuss what defensive investing really means. Just call 844-343-6048. That's 844-343-6048. When you retire in a bull market, of course, you're in good shape. But what if you're retiring in a bear market? Why take the chance that you're going to be in either? Why not have an exit strategy in advance? And when we look at things like required minimum distributions, which start at 70.5, bear markets can kill you in those because if you're having to take a certain amount of money out and the value of your shares has dropped, you're going to have to cash out more shares to get that same amount. So having the right strategy for getting income from your retirement accounts, such as dividends, interest, things like that, makes more sense than cashing out shares. For example, do you know the investments you own? Do you really know them? Do you know your asset allocation? Do you have any clue of what your downside risk is? Because you need to know the answers to these questions. The sooner you do, the better off you'll be. You've worked hard, you made sacrifices, but now what? It's what you do with your money that really matters. What's your plan for Social Security, for Medicare, for taxes, for health care, long-term care, required minimum distributions? There are many things. And my 5-step retirement action plan focuses on these 5 key things. Single most important strategy is ensure you wring every nickel out of your Social Security. And the latest wrinkle with Medicare and how you can avoid getting gouged in premiums. And a lot of other strategies that successful people are using to ensure their money lasts as long as they do. So if that's what you want for you, be one of the first 5 callers, 844-343-6048. That's 844-343-6048. And we can talk about this 5-step retirement action plan and whether it might benefit you. No cost, no obligation.
At Brad Williams Financial Services, we believe in innovative thinking, and we're not afraid to challenge conventional methods in our approach to managing, investing, and preserving wealth. To learn more about Brad Williams Financial Services or to set up a complimentary review,
call 844-343-6048. That's 844-343-6048. Thanks for listening to our show today. For baby boomers, here's something to think about. Will you have enough income during your retirement? Are you absolutely sure? Do you understand the difference between growth and income? How about bonds and bond funds? Are you 100% ready for RMDs? Do you have an estate plan? If you've said no to any of these, we can help. Right now, for the first 5 callers, we'll send you a free, custom-designed, animated video retirement kit to help you plan for the retirement you've worked so long and so hard for. These custom video kits are loaded with cutting-edge retirement technology, custom designed to your specific areas of need. There's nothing else like them. So call right now to receive your very own custom-designed animated video retirement kit. Call 844-343-6048. That's 844-343-6048.
So as we're back again, we're covering the 5 critical steps you must take now before you can ever think about calling it quits and retire. We went over healthcare costs, long-term care, required minimum distributions, strategies for investing. But when we look at, as I mentioned, taxes will probably affect the most people as far as being the biggest expense. We have to look at healthcare expenses. You know, you've got Medicare premiums. You've got whether you have a supplement or not. Those of you who are in the military, you know, looking at TRICARE for life. What are your deductibles? What are the copays? How long do you think you're going to live? I mean, everybody wants to live longer. Of course, we want a quality life, but we got to remember we're going to be paying for health care. Because if you look at your retirement in 3 phases, kind of the go-go years, the slow-go years, and the no-go years, we have to plan for these things. You know, there's a lot of talk about long-term care. I did a show on long-term care. I'm not going to spend a lot of time with that now, but that's something that needs to be looked at. And what I mean is not necessarily long-term care insurance, but having a plan. There are several ways to take care of that issue that don't require insurance. Have you looked at those? Because that's something we may want to talk about. There's been a lot of changes in that long-term care insurance arena. Premium hikes that have been significant. Underwriting's tightened up so much that only the cream of the crop's going to get approved these days. So looking at long-term care with someone who understands it like myself is going to be really important because health care is going to be a large cost of retirement. You got to think about that. You know, that's where taxes come in because taxes can impact your Medicare premiums. You know, all these are important. So really, as we wrap up, successful retirements are not built on assets, the money you save. It's built on your ability to generate income. So you got to have diversified sources of income. And getting income today is tougher because interest rates are low, although they are going up. And you've got to have the right strategies. So if you're having a fear of running out of money, I'll show you someone who doesn't have a plan for generating income. It's got to be diversified, and you got to take into account many different factors. So call in, get our 5-step retirement action plan. And that's when we talk about the 5 biggest issues that could help make your money go further in retirement. We can schedule a time to meet, review. I can share my thoughts with you. No cost, no obligation, no sales pitch, no pressure, no products to buy. Just conversation and getting a second opinion. So if you want to schedule this, just give us a call, 844-343-6048, and tell them I want to talk about my 5-step retirement action plan and see how it impacts me. 844-343-6048. Well, have a great day. I want to thank you for listening today, and we'll talk to you next week.
That's all the time we have for today. To learn more about Brad Williams Financial Services or to set up a complimentary review,
call 844-343-6048. That's 844-343-6048.
Investment advisory services offered through Sound Income Strategies, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisory firm. Brad Williams Financial Services and Sound Income Strategies, LLC are not associated entities.